Hello, this is Mr. Collier, and today we're looking at Gapminder and how to get data sets from there. So I'm going to go to the Gapminder website. So this is where you get the data. There's also a useful thing over here in Tools. So I'm going to click on Tools. And when that loads up, we have the default graph is life expectancy versus income. I'm going to go ahead and so it looks like a nice positive linear correlation here, but actually if I go to here, this is on log, you need to change this to linear. Make sure it's always at linear, and then you can see if there's a linear relationship. So maybe it's not, well, it's still not bad. You could still probably model it with a line. So income versus life expectancy would be some good data sets to pick. You can also do something, you can change your y-axis and x-axis and see if you get another linear relationship. So I can pick on the y-axis. Maybe I'll go pick, let's see, something like, I can pick oil consumption per person. I don't want oil consumption, I want like a rate, a per person, per capita, a percent, a per 100,000, so that you can easily compare the countries. Yeah, so let's click on that. And so there's a nice relationship here. So you could use this for data for your statistics project. You can change this from income to something else, I guess, and see if there's a relationship. But this looks pretty good. Looks like it's going to be pretty linear, and then there's a little bit of an outlier here. So you could probably maybe consider not using Singapore in your data set because it's such an outlier. That's one consideration you could do. Or you could like do correlation with the outlier and without the outlier and compare it. But anyway, this looks like a pretty good data set to use. And so I'm going to get these data sets. So this is oil consumption. Remember, this is oil consumption per capita. Okay, so I'm going to write that down. And they even got the information there, tons per year per person, so that's important to write down. And income is gross domestic product, GDP per person, so that's another rate, so that's good to have. Okay, so now I can go back to where I get the data. Actually, let me just go back here and click again. So I'll find oil consumption per person. Oil consumption per person. There it is. I can click download as maybe CSV is for numbers. I can click on this one here and it opens up in Excel. Okay, so that's going to pop up now any second. Or is it still downloading? Oh, there it is. Okay, so I've got an Excel spreadsheet with many countries in the world, and it goes all the way up to 2016. And let's go and get the other data set. I wanted, what was it, income? Okay, these are results to come up for income. I believe this is the one we saw on the graph, income per person, GDP per capita. So I'm going to click on this one to download the Excel icon. It'll open up in Excel, and there's many years starting from 1800, and the last one's 2015. So I'm gonna go up to 2015. Now I just want 2015 year, so I'm going to delete all these other columns. Let's see what happens when I delete a column. Okay, delete a column, it's gone. 2015 gets closer. Let's see if I do multiple columns. So shift and delete these guys. Okay, so yeah, I guess if you click shift on this one and start clicking, you can delete maybe all the way to the beginning. So let me do shift, click on that, Or maybe I'll just drag. Is it? No, it doesn't work. Shift, and I'm going to go right back to the beginning. And see if I can delete all of that. Yeah, so all that's deleted, and 2015 is right next to my countries, which is good. So this is, what is this again? This is oil consumption. Oh, it's GDP per capita, sorry. GDP per capita. And next to it, I want my oil consumption. Okay, so I'll go back to the other Excel spreadsheet and get the 2015 data. So first, actually, you want to copy all the countries and make sure they match. So I'm going to copy the countries column and put it over here. And I will copy the 2015 data from the oil consumption. So click on that, copy, and so there we go. That is, sorry, that's oil consumption. I'll type that back in. Okay, so now comes the really tedious part. We actually need the countries on the left to match the countries on the right. Okay, so as you can see, the first one on the right is Algeria. So on the left, I don't want any of these first four. I gotta delete them and shift cells up. So now Algeria matches. Argentina is the next one on the right. So I'm going to delete all of these until I get to Argentina. Okay, this might take a little while, but this is kind of what you have to do to get the data sets to match. Okay, literally 20 minutes later, I've got 39 sets of data, or 38 sets of data here, ready to go. I could have gotten a few more countries, but I kind of got bored of the whole process. But here we go. We got the countries to match, and I've got GDP per capita and oil consumption. So we're ready to actually start doing some statistics here now. So what you can do is you can highlight, and I can highlight the categories too. And then you can copy and paste into Autograph, of course, and do it there. But you can also just copy and paste it here, and we can do linear regression in Microsoft Excel. So where is that at? That would be under. So yes, select the data, including the title here, and then we go to Insert, Chart, and we go to Scatter Plot. Okay, so we go to Scatter Plot, and there it is. It's got the title there. You can, well, I should probably change that title to oil consumption versus income, or something like that. You can go and change add chart element and change the axes or axes titles. We can so we can write that in here. This is well, it's GDP, isn't it, per capita? And you can make a vertical axis. What was that? That was oil consumption. Can't remember the units. Consumption, something like that. You can put in the units later. Okay, you can make it bigger or smaller. Another thing you can do is you can go click on Add Chart Element, and you go to Trend Line, and we can do a linear trend line. And there is a line of best fit. And you can also go to trend line, more trend line options, and with more trend line options you can let's see, somehow get the equation. Well, if you go over to here, this little bar graph thing, you can click on the bottom, display equation on chart, and display r squared value on the chart. Okay, so maybe you can move that around a bit, but there it is. Now, so they got the slope of the line and the y-intercept right there. Okay, so the slope is very tiny in this one because we've got the oil consumption is a very tiny unit on the y-axis, and this is a very huge unit here. So it's a really tiny one. It's actually 4 times 10 to the power of -5 there. That's like scientific notation, so it's a really tiny value. And they don't give you the r value, they give you the r squared value. So if you want to find out what r is, you have to square root that number. Okay, so you can do this kind of graph in Microsoft Excel, or you could copy and paste this data into Autograph if you think the Autograph graphs look better.